I tried ranking over 30 garden veggies on a wide range of considerations. Everything from how delicious it is to how easy it is to grow to how much space it takes up in your garden or extra techniques you might have to learn to be able to grow it. And even how much money it'll save you compared to buying it in the shops. Trying to rank all these fairly but also distinctly was a fair bit of a challenge because at first I kind of wanted to just put everything in the top tier, but I had to be pretty harsh with some of them, so I'm really keen to see how some of these opinions go down. Now without further ado, let's jump to me in the culinary office. Hello and welcome to the culinary office. Let's jump straight into this list. Now I'm gonna have to try my absolute darndest to be really harsh with a lot of these, otherwise everything's gonna end up in S and A. And if you've never come across this style of tier before, S is the best, all the way down through A, B, C, and D. And without further ado, let's jump straight into the first one, which is radishes. Radishes are really easy to grow, but they're also not the most versatile in the kitchen. And the way that I'm going to be ranking this is sort of the overall package that a vegetable offers when you consider everything from growing it to eating it, how you can use it, likelihood to have to deal with things like pests. And radishes are really easy to grow, but they are a bit of an acquired taste. You can get sick of them pretty quickly. I think they're somewhere between B and C tier. I mean, it's pretty much the first vegetable you're ever going to use, and for that reason, I'm inclined to give it that slight edge and head it into B tier. Now, carrots. Carrots are delicious, something you absolutely should give growing a go, but they can be a bit of a pain to get germinated. Once you do get them germinated, they are really easy to grow, and you can almost end up with sort of a carrot machine if you let a few of them go to seed. And they are absolutely delicious though, and you will generally want to use a lot more carrots than you can grow. I think I will put them in, let's go A tier. Next is onions. Onions are a tricky one. I think they are really underrated for most gardeners because you look at the price of them and they're $2 for 2 kilos in the market or whatever. And you go, why would I waste so much space in growing them? But it's because they are really easy to grow that actually makes them a great thing to chuck in a garden bed when you don't know what else to grow. They are really easy. They're obviously really delicious and such a huge staple. And plus, I mean, in Australia, our market specs that get brought to the supermarket, our onions are quite small. So if you want bigger onions, you kind of have to grow them yourself. For that reason, I think they're at the very top of B tier. They are not an absolute necessity to grow, but of the ones that aren't, they're one of the best. Rainbow chard, or silver beet, or Swiss chard. This is pretty much the patron saint of the garden. It's one of the prettiest looking vegetables. It's not very versatile in the kitchen. I think nearly every garden should have at least some growing, but it can go bad in the garden fairly quickly. It can just kind of bolt on you and then it's done. This seems so harsh. This is really hard because I don't want to just chuck everything in up the top. I think we'll put it in C. Okay, tomatoes. Big, luscious tomatoes. I think one of the main reasons that people want to start a garden is they want to grow tomatoes. And they are so much better than the shops. They are fairly easy to grow, even with the difficulty of having to learn trellising to tie them up, or even the extra expense of having to go to that effort. I think they have to be S tier. Cherry tomatoes. Cherry tomatoes is a difficult one. It could easily call them better on a gardening list than regular tomatoes because they are easier to grow. They're a bit more forgiving. They are easier to grow out of season as well. So you can usually get cherry tomatoes before and after your kind of regular tomato season. But you usually, at least in my experience, the cherry tomatoes that I grow are about the same sort of flavor profile as ones that you buy in the shops. Whereas with normal tomatoes, it's it's 4 times the flavor compared to what you can buy in the supermarket. So I think cherry tomato we will just put into A tier. You could easily put it in S tier. I think I'm trying to be harsh here. All right. Cabbage. Cabbage is a great one. The big difficulties with cabbage that you run into is that it's big. It can take up a lot of space. There is a fair bit that you can do to help compress the size that it's going to take up. But even then, one of the problems that I usually run into with cabbage is that you plant a fair bit at once, and then it's already at once, and you just can't get through that much. So if you can work around that, where you can actually sort of succession plant them, so you've only ever got like one or two ready at a time, then it's good. But that extra faffing around, it's not that delicious. Although sauerkraut's really good. I think B tier. I think it's everything that you want in a garden vegetable, but it's not an automatic thing that you have to be growing when it's in season. All right, corn, sweet corn. It only has a short growing window. It's really easy to grow. The one drawback that it has is just that you need to plant a decent handful of them at once so they can pollinate. And as far as drawbacks go, having to plant about a minimum of 1 square meter. I mean, that's pretty good. And it's really fast growing because corn is actually a grass. The corn that we eat is the seed, but the plant is a grass. So it's actually one of the fastest growing vegetables. In fact, there's this tidbit that allegedly on large corn farms, you can hear the fields growing because corn kind of stretches and snaps and cracks as it grows because it grows so quick when it's fully in the heat season. That the fields are meant to be quite loud, like at night. And I'm just struggling. I'm trying to think of any other reason that it isn't just the best. I think it is S tier. I just think it's great with kids because most kids love corn and it grows so quick that it's kind of engaging for them. All right, cos lettuce slash romaine lettuce, these sort of styles of the more vertical, bunchy growing lettuces. This tends to be my preferred types of lettuce to grow just because they're easier to harvest and clean, as opposed to some of the loose leaf varieties, which we will get to later. The only thing is that it's not a perfect trade off. I think they aren't always as sweet or delicious as some of the loose leaf varieties. Um, I think we'll put it in. It's a very strong B. It's a very strong B. Right, next we have rosemary. This is something I think that you should absolutely every garden should find a place to have some rosemary because it's so hardy and so easy to use in a wide variety of meals, cooking, and because you just come out and you prune a bit, it then gets bushier and it's just the perfect sort of self-fulfilling cycle. And plus, you can propagate it pretty easily. I didn't see this coming, but I honestly think it has to be an S tier, doesn't it? Oh, all right. Next is garlic. Garlic is one of your best bang for buck crops in terms of it's something that's actually quite expensive to buy in the supermarket. It's really easy to grow. It's also really productive in terms of how much you get out of a bed space because you can plant them so close together. The only real downside to garlic is that it is a really set time of year that it grows, and it does take that good 6 to 8 or 9 months in the ground. So you are locking away that portion of the bed for that amount of time. But because of how delicious it is, how much you use it in basically every savory meal, and you, in theory, are saving a fair bit of money by growing it yourself, and you then also can just propagate it from last year's leftover bulbs. I think I'll put it in S tier. My only big tip is try and find some garlic that's been grown in an area with a really similar climate to yours, because if not, it can take some generations to get used to it. Next is bok choy, the Asian green. I think Asian greens, some of the veggies that everyone should try and have in their garden, at least, or beginners should try. Even if you haven't really gotten used to using them in your cooking, you will find a way because they are quite versatile and they're really great veggies to learn on. I think they're going to go in A tier. I can't really think of many reasons that these aren't awesome. The only reason they're not an S tier is, I mean, look at the flavor profile that we're building in S tier. It's just everything that's super easy and full of flavor. Next up we have spinach. Spinach is really easy to grow, but where it can come a gut is the fact that you need to harvest it so often. Because if you want the nice, tender baby spinach, that's probably what you are trying to replace from the shops when you're growing it yourself, is you are then harvesting it once or twice a week in order to kind of keep it in size, and that upkeep can easily you can easily sort of fail on that, and then you just end up with overgrown, bolted spinach, and you kind of have to start again. And it tends to be something that I find myself growing less and less in lieu of just some other leafy greens. I think I'll put it in C tier, which is so funny putting an extra rainbow chard because they're really closely related. All right, next is oregano or oregano. People always hate whichever pronunciation I use, so I will use neither and just call it the pizza one. It's honestly probably my favorite herb. It goes so well with so many things. Once you get it established, it's really easy. It's can be easy to kill when it's quite juvenile, but then once you get it going and it starts to send out some of its runners, it's quite good. You really just need to find some sort of bed space for it, and then it's good to go. And what I've found is that in Victoria, it can basically grow the full way through the year. We have the right climate for it so that it is kind of plant once and forget. I think I'll put it in A tier. Oh, the next one is one that I think, at least in Western cultures, we don't really think to grow that much, but it's such a great candidate to have in your garden, and that's ginger. And one of the things you can nearly do, because ginger wants to grow over the hot, warmer months, and you basically take the ginger root that you buy from the shops and you just plant that, and that will turn into a ginger plant that will send out more of the rhizomes, which are what the part of the plant that ginger is. And then at the end of the season, you'll just be able to dig up more. And you ideally want to get it planted a little bit before you're harvesting your garlic, but you can nearly have this sort of 6-month rotation where through the colder months and early summer, you're growing your garlic. And then in that same patch of bed through early to midsummer through till the sort of autumn turn before you're planting your garlic, and then be growing your ginger. So it's almost symbiotic. You're just going to be cutting off one of those harvests a bit early. I think honestly, ginger is one of the ones that once you start growing it, you'll never buy it again. And there's plenty of good tricks to help you store it well. So I think it's either the top of A tier or the bottom of S tier. I think I'll go A tier just for the sake of trying to reserve S for just trying to keep a little bit of space in S tier. All right, next is chilies. Chilies are such a good one to grow. What not a lot of people realize is that they are perennials. They will live for many years. So these are one of the best ones to snag at clearance sections in nurseries because it'll get to the end of summer and they'll just want to clear out that stock because the plant will no longer have chilies on it and they'll struggle to sell it. I think having a plant of whatever your preferred type of general use chili, whether it be just like bird's eye or habanero or something. Having one in the garden is pretty good. Through climates like Australia, you kind of do want to dig them up the same that you do with capsicum through winter and then just keep them undercover. Yeah, I mean, I think it is. I honestly think it might actually be A tier because it's kind of similar to herbs, where even if you have a small space, a great way to use your garden is to work out how do I cut down on a lot of those food products that you need to buy every now and again. You usually end up with a bit of waste from, or a lot of people when they buy chili, they will want to use one every month or so. The other thing about chilies is they store really well. So yeah, I've surprised myself with that. I will put it in A tier. All right, pumpkins can be a little bit finicky just to get started. because you want to give them as long a window to grow as possible. It is somewhat easy to plant them too early. And then the major drawback is just that they require so much space to grow. You can cut down the space a little bit with trellises and things, but you still need a pretty decent size garden to start with. So unfortunately, it is one of those ones that not everyone can grow, but once they do take off, they're then super prolific. I think I'll put them in C tier. Yeah, pumpkins. I love pumpkins so much. I think it's a C tier. I feel so bad about putting anything. That's why there's nothing in D tier. I mean, these are all so good to grow. All right, eggplants. Eggplants are fairly easy to grow, and they love heat. They're also more hardy and resilient than you think they would be. Not everyone loves eggplant. It is a little bit difficult to use. Um, I think if you love eggplant, it does float somewhere around a B. Like just grow it. There's no real drawbacks to growing it. I mean, I just want to put something in D tier. I think I'll put it in D tier. And this is as someone who grows eggplants every season. Yeah, I think that just for most gardeners, there will be other space that you can use instead. All right, broccoli. Do I need to say more? All right, probably. Broccoli is one of the first sort of serious vegetables that everyone should grow. It is really space efficient. It's a lot more space efficient than what packaging and stuff will let you on for. I don't think when this video comes out that will have already come out. If not, I've got a full broccoli growing tutorial. Probably the next video or the video before or after this one. Where I hope show you how to pack a whole bunch of broccoli into a fairly small space. It can be grown in basically any season. You just need to match a variety to the right season because we have been able to create varieties that grow better in heat, some that grow better in cold, some that are frost tolerant. And broccoli is pretty delicious. It's really versatile. You can have it with basically every meal. I mean, I honestly do think it probably is the bottom of S tier. It's certainly not as much of an auto include as things like tomatoes and garlic and rosemary are. But I think you should probably, if you like broccoli, like you should definitely grow it. All right, potatoes. I think in the modern world, not a lot of people appreciate how important potato is or has been for the developing world. It is the most calorie dense per acre crop that exists. It is a great self-sufficiency crop. You can grow it in a wide variety of conditions. You can grow it in containers or grow bags. It's a pioneer crop, so it requires basically no fertilization. You just need to make sure that it gets just enough water to never dry out enough to where it husks itself over to protect itself to the following season, which is hard-ish to do. It's just you need to water it if it's drought. Other than that, you can basically get away with never watering it. And I mean, potato, it's like you cook it a million ways. It's definitely S tier. All right, I think I need to downgrade broccoli back down to A tier. I don't think it's fair to put broccoli quite there. Broccoli is the top of A tier. All right, zucchini. Zucchini is super prolific. You can grow it really compact, super easy to grow as well. I don't think it has many drawbacks. The biggest drawback is just that it is so prolific. And once you get on harvesting it, it's awesome. I think we'll put it in A tier. Oh, celery. I think we have the rest of a mirepoix up here. It's just where does celery go? I think again, celery is one of those crops that having one or two in the garden that you can come out and grab one or two stalks off when you are making a stew or a mirepoix or something like that, where you just need about 1 or 200 grams of celery. It's one of the best bang for buck crops in terms of saving you money from the shots because in Woolies and stuff, you have to buy a full, at least half a celery, which is, unless you're making something that's really celery dedicated, you're going to struggle to get through before it wilts. So it's one of the best from that aspect. It can be a little bit annoying to get from early seedling through to a plant that you are harvesting, but once it is, it's super low maintenance and it'll self seed quite well. I mean, I think it's either A or B tier. I think we'll go A. All right, snow peas. Very seasonal. You can only grow them during winter. They are probably the best crop to grow in winter, though. You do need a trellis, so it's a little bit of a stuff around. They sometimes can be a little bit annoying to get to germinate, and they really hate being transplanted. It is also one of my favorite veggies. Super delicious. The veggies themselves aren't that versatile, but the amount of thing in terms of what you can turn them into, but the amount of dishes that you can use them in is pretty versatile. But also in B tier, like onions, and I think it's also A tier. Uh oh, this is exactly what I haven't planned out ahead of time what I want to put into what tier, and I'm really not liking how top heavy this is. But I guess these are all the popular veggies for a reason. All right, next is thyme. Thyme is a good one. I don't think of it's anywhere near as much of an automatic herb that you're going to want as rosemary. It is the reason that I kind of got into gardening is because I wanted to. I was doing gourmet cookery at the time, and I needed a whole bunch of time to do basting for like steaks and chops and stuff. So it is kind of almost responsible for the channel. It can be a little bit easy to lose to drought, but it also is great at recovering if it gets pretty dire. I think it is also going to be A tier. I think I think most herbs will be A tier and above because they are generally fairly low maintenance and super delicious and quite expensive. Speaking of which, Thai basil. Again, one that I think is quite underrated. It's super pretty when it flowers. It has a beautiful purple flowers. It's actually a perennial, so unlike sweet basil, which only has a 1 year life cycle, Thai basil has a many year life cycle. The only thing is that it is not frost tolerant, so you've got to protect it from frost, which is why all of my Thai basil is currently dead. Because of that one snap frost at the start of the season that killed a lot of my veggies. All right, I haven't done basil yet. I think we'll put it in B tier. It's just because it as an ingredient isn't as versatile as some of the other herbs. That could also just be a very Western lens on it. Maybe I just don't know how to use it properly. Or use it in as many different dishes. I've got broccoli again. That's a mistake. All right, capsicum. My favorite veggie to eat. It's fairly easy. You do need to give it, I think, a little bit more garden space than what you might initially think because the plants look not that huge, but you do want to give them a fair bit of root space. And then they will fruit for many seasons as long as you can sort of protect them a bit during the winter. But I do appreciate that not everyone loves capsicum, and capsicum's not that expensive, and it is seasonal. Maybe I'll just put it in B tier. If it was me and my like favorite veggie list, I might put this up in S, but I think B. All right, shallots. Possibly the most underrated crop because these are so expensive. And one of the main reasons or ingredients that restaurant food tastes better than the stuff that you cook at home, besides copious amounts of salt, butter, and sugar, is using shallots. A lot of the times that you might use onions. And then you might go to the shops and look at shallots and see that they are about 10 times the price per kilo as onions and kind of go, well, I'm not going to use those. But they are super easy to grow. I would argue they are easier to grow than onions because similar to garlic, you actually propagate them from bulbs as opposed to having to start them from seed. Onions can take a fair while to get going. Shallots, you basically whack in the garden bed and they will take care of themselves. You then just need to harvest them once they start to die back and are ready for harvesting. I mean, this has to go in S tier. I think this is probably the most underappreciated veggie on the list. Because not a whole lot of people I think not a lot of people consider growing it, and also the ratio for deliciousness to ease of growing. I mean, it's similar to garlic. Could you imagine if a lot of people didn't know that garlic existed and then you're the only person putting it in your cooking and then they'll go, "Oh my god, why is it so much better than mine?" It's because there's this fantastic ingredient. All right, cucumbers. Cucumbers are easy again once they're going. They are super water thirsty, which can be a bit of extra maintenance depending on how your garden's set up. They are really prolific, so that once they are sprouting, once they are fruiting, you will just get a whole bunch. And then you can pickle them. Of course, there are slicing and pickling varieties. We usually just pickle our slicing cucumbers. And they are really delicious. Like until you have a homegrown cucumber, I think you'll be kind of shocked that you don't realize how much of a flavor cucumbers have or can have. They're also super aromatic. I think we'll put them in B tier. I think we'll put them in B tier. If you like cucumbers, like these are much higher up, I think. Yeah, like I'm curious as to what some of your guys' opinions on where some of these will go will be because, for example, for me, I would put zucchini above cucumber, but I think a lot of people might actually put that the other way around. All right, sweet basil. Again, one of the main crops that really got me into gardening. It's a bit of a funny one. I think it's one that a lot of gardeners struggle with to begin with. But then once you kind of have worked out the basics, it's such a prolific grower. I do have a full video on basil. I am going to put it. I think of all the herbs, it might be one of the least versatile because anything that you put basil in tastes like basil. Whereas, no, I guess the others, it is a bit more of a distinct flavor. It's definitely more distinct than oregano is. I really thought that I would be putting this up in A or S tier, but I think I might even just put it down in B tier. Just because of all the herbs on this list, it's one that is not a freebie in terms of ease of growing. You actually do have to work at it a little bit to get it. Yeah, you do actually kind of have to work at pruning and stuff a bit. It is really easy to kill while it's quite juvenile. I'm really convincing myself to put it down in C, even though it's like just one of my favorite things to grow. I'll leave it in B. I think B is fair. Okay, green beans. Fairly easy to grow. You do need to trellis them. They are really cheap in the store. These are one of these good sort of, I call them mid-season crops, that sort of turning point from winter through early spring. They grow really well then. They are a really good space filler if you just have a spot in the garden and you don't know what to put there. But not everyone loves them as an ingredient. Maybe these also do belong down in D tier. Right, broad beans, aka bush beans or fava beans. These are definitely, I think, underappreciated because they're not that common of an ingredient to show up in recipes, but they are really easy to grow. I think they look great. Unlike climbing beans, they don't need a trellis. And there are a whole wide range of varieties that you can grow through different parts of the year. So they're quite versatile from that aspect as well. It's just that then you've got to know how to use them in the kitchen, which I think isn't as easy as some of the rest of these. I might put this up in C tier. All right, last but not least, I've just realized I have not included cauliflower. Maybe I'll use this broccoli as a cauliflower at the end. All right, beetroot. I'm an Australian, so we put these on everything. They're really easy to grow. They look great. They go really well in salads. Beetroot dip, I love, but I appreciate that not everyone is going to find them the most versatile. I think they are one of the best go-to crops to just sort of start and not know where you're going to put them. They're a great like space filler and bed filler. They're so low maintenance. That they are a good, they're not quite a slow growing crop, but they certainly fill that sort of role similar to onions, where if you just want a low maintenance bed for a while, just put some beetroots there. And then when you're ready to use it, just come and harvest them. I think I'll put them in B tier. That feels good. All right, broccoli, I'll call this cauliflower because I forgot to put cauliflower in here. I definitely think in terms of when you're eating it, the best cauliflower is better than the best broccoli, but the worst broccoli is better than the worst cauliflower. The the big downside of cauliflower over broccoli is that cauliflower takes up so much more space per plant. And for that reason, I think I would knock it down one below wherever broccoli is, which would put it into B tier, which I think is about right. It's a great one to grow if you like and if you like using it in the kitchen. I don't think it's an auto include, which just about everything above it is. And I think that's just about going to be it. Now, I'm sure some of you are going to have some strong disagreements about this, and I would love to hear what you think, what you would put where, and what would you maybe add to the list as well. Because I didn't want this video to be an hour long, so I had to try and pick the top 30 or so veggies. What would you have done differently in your own ranking of the same list? Thank you very much for watching. If you want to support the channel, consider checking out the Patreons who have brought you this video. Maybe consider buying a hoodie. There's restocks coming soon. If not, thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.